Special call board meeting of the Board of Trustees for the San Felipe CISD to order. This meeting will be conducted by video conference in accordance with the Governor's authorization concerning suspension of certain open meetings law requirements for COVID-19. We'll start with opening ceremonies. Before we do that, Madam Secretary.
Mr. Contreras?
He's out today.
Webb? Ms. Haynes?
Haynes is here.
Ms. Mesa? Mr. Mesa?
Here.
Mr. Oberfeld?
Present.
Mr. Smith?
Mr. Smith is out.
And myself. Sir, we have a quorum.
Let the record show that we do have a quorum of board members and that this meeting has been duly called in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. We will have opening ceremonies first with a moment of silence for personal reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, good evening. I welcome each and every one of you. I want to say that before we start our budget workshop, there's so much to ponder upon opening this school year. The decisions that we make throughout the coming weeks are going to be so important. I think the most important decisions we have ever attempted to discuss and come to a conclusion with COVID-19 pending, the vaccination and the treatment and the solution for this virus. There's some important decisions that we have to make in the coming meetings, and I ask everyone again for their attendance and their discussions of this very important topic. But today we start with a budget workshop, and then we'll go into some business that we have to tend to before we have our regular meeting on Monday. Again, I want to thank you for being present here today and having a quorum. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Rios, who's at home. Dr. Rios, for our budget workshop.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mesa, thank you. First, I wanted to share with you that we had intended as part of the operations workshop to share with y'all the projections for our health insurance. However, after discussing the projections with our consultants, Brown and San Antonio, there was just some numbers that we didn't agree with. Nothing to be alarmed. We just wanted to make sure that we presented you the most correct report. So we asked Brown to hold off. We wanted to make sure that our numbers agree with theirs, to hold off until early August. So we hope that we will be able to have a final budget workshop, one, to address the health insurance, but two, at that point, we will be more able to address any additional costs that we might incur. As you know, with the press release that we did yesterday, our intent is to have discussions with the board about a delayed start and providing connectivity and laptops for a lot of students. So there's going to be some budget implications. And I think that really in early August, we'll be ready to finalize a lot of those loose ends. So having a fourth budget workshop possibly that first Tuesday or Thursday in August would be appropriate. And at that time, we would want to share the final budget projections for our health insurance. I will tell you in advance, Mr. Mesa, members of the board, that our health insurance budget continues to be very healthy. So there's no reason to be worried about that. However, it is part of the budgeting process, and because it is part of the budgeting process, we want to be as exact as we can. So we're gonna, if it's okay with you, Mr. Mesa, and members of the board, we're gonna jump right in to the sustainability budget that's gonna be presented by Mr. Henge. I'll share the screen for my end, and then Mr. Henge will do the presentation. I see Mr. Henge is already with us, so if there aren't any questions, Mr. Mesa, I'll begin sharing that screen.
Dr. Rios, I just wanted to ask, once you talk to the insurance consultants, just so we can have something in place and know that we've got something as far as a policy for our employees, and I'm talking about if they get infected with COVID-19, so that we can have something similar to what other districts have in place regarding days taken for once they test positive, and the quarantine time and so forth.
Yes, Mr. Mesa. Now, in anticipation, on Monday, we will also present a policy that provides for an employee to work from home, related to different issues, and that'll begin the conversation with the board officially. And if y'all have some direction after that, then we'll certainly pursue it, and we'll make sure that our policies match up with other districts.
Yes, in your conversation with either TA commissioner or the group of superintendents in this region and elsewhere, if you could, have that discussion so we can be, again, have something similar to what they have, and again, in accordance with.
Absolutely, Mr. Mesa. We'll discuss it with the Region 15 superintendents, with the other group of superintendents I belong with.
Dr. Rios. Dr. Rios, can you hear me? The screen is frozen for Dr. Rios.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're back on, but the screen was frozen and could not hear the audio.
I can hear you now.
Okay, and again, the reason for that, Dr. Rios, is just so we can have something, what is best for the employees, and make sure that everything is covered in relation to that. Screen is frozen once again. Dr. Rios?
It's a lag in the Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Okay. Can y'all see me, hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. My apologies, sir. I was able to hear what you were saying. I'm sorry that y'all couldn't hear me.
Yeah, the screen freezes up for some reason.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else want to ask any questions before we start our budget workshop? Okay.
Yeah, if I can just echo what you said, hopefully we can talk about it Monday, or about the employee side of it. So thank you.
Just so we can have something, again, that will suit every employee that we have, and again, the best thing for them. Okay, I'll turn it over to Dr. Rios, who can share the slides.
Okay, let me share the screen. We're going to start with, at my end, Willard, it says that I'm disabled to share. Can you fix that for me, please? Les, can you make sure that somebody at that end makes me the host so I can share?
Yes, sir. We're working on that right now.
All right, I just got a message that stand by, they're about to enable us. There you go. Okay, I'm ready to share now.
Okay,
Okay, here we go. All right, Mr. Henge, do you tell me the tab you want me to start with, and we will go there. If we need any questions answered from our director of construction or our construction manager, they're available. What tab do you want me to go to, Mr. Henge?
We can start with this one as a quick overview and then maybe go to each tab and actually get the detail of it. And then
Okay.
if there's any questions, we can address that in the tabs and then move back. Good evening, President Messa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. This sustainability dashboard here gives the running history of what we did in 2018-19 school year, 2019-20, and then the upcoming school year of 2020-2021. We put this list together based on feedback we've received from staff, teacher forum, several different avenues of communication throughout the last school year. So we'd like to move forward with some of these projects. So starting with the HVAC, if we go down to the HVAC tab there, this amount that we're looking at is a allocation for maintenance agreements for Amistad heating and air conditioning and train equipment. We've had several communications on this. What these items will do will provide support for our HVAC team in the maintenance department. Train equipment is a proprietary system that we have. That is currently at 5 locations, and we've just always had difficult times being able to support those locations because it is a proprietary system. The Amistad maintenance agreement would cover 6 campuses, and that would help offset the work orders that we find it very difficult to be able to get to with our current HVAC team that we have. So this would offset some of those requests and turnaround times for making repairs for heating and air conditioning. If you'll notice in that column, we don't have any other allocations for heating and air conditioning equipment. And that's primarily because we have made such a large investment in the past on our heating and air conditioning, primarily our ESCO project that we initiated a couple of years ago that replaced a lot of the equipment. So a lot of it is maintenance and repair. So these areas here would target equipment that's not currently under maintenance contract. Going back, the athletics section at $199,956. That one pertains to a full rip and replace of our track up at Ram Stadium. That was an item that we were looking at doing this last school year. Due to COVID, it was postponed. I have met with a vendor on this particular project 2 days ago, and it's definitely something that we need to get done. So we decided to include it for the upcoming budget. Campus furniture, we're allocating $30,000. We're recommending $30,000 for campus furniture. That would be at Chavita Elementary. They were set this last school year to receive furniture. It was postponed. There's definitely a need at that campus for it, so we would like to initiate that for the upcoming year. And asphalt at this time, we have no requests for asphalt projects because of the projects we've been working on. to include Lonnie Green, Buena Vista. Those were separate projects that we did, as well as the marching pad at the high school. So at this point, we don't see allocating anything there. The painting project interior at $208,392. The campuses would include Garfield Elementary and Lamar Elementary. We did have Buena Vista down, but due to COVID, we were able to use our internal staff to be able to do the interior painting, which saved us almost $90,000. With doing that this year, that is allowing us to be able to bring Garfield into the district painting project for interior paint. And the exterior painting project at $106,098. The campuses for that would include Buena Vista, as well as Lamar Elementary. So Lamar would receive both interior and exterior. And Buena Vista already have an interior done this year. They would be completed as well. The technology refresh project, working with all the resources and the obvious need for the one-to-one initiative and remote learning. We've come up with a couple expenditures for that. If you go to the technology tab. What we've done is identified our virtual environment, both hardware and software licenses. We'll need to make investments there to be able to support the offsite instruction learning, to support that large number of users that'll be connecting into our system from home. And that we're projecting right now at a cost of $603,782 or $781. And then the additional funding of $627,500 would be for 2,500 Chromebooks, in addition to the devices that we've already been ordering at this point.
Mr. Mesa, if I may, I know that there was some questions that came my way from different board members about our position in getting closer to a one-to-one to facilitate the remote learning. Are there any questions from any of the board members at this time related to this initiative?
Yes, Mr. Orford?
I don't know if it ties to it. In I guess I was going to question the track expenditure for the coming year as it relates to technology. I don't know if you want me to ask that now or when we're done with everything, because it does tie to technology, or at least my question will.
Oh, if that's okay, then if we can continue with the presentation, because there's probably other items that'll be right along the same discussion level.
Okay, then I'll wait till we're done with this, and then I'll ask. Thank you.
The next item is the service vehicle allocation. So on that tab, what we've done this year, as well as last year, we did not allocate money for buses. This year, with what the online instruction is looking like, we feel confident that we can push out being able to purchase 2 more buses for an additional school year. We have been replacing motors, things like that. The mechanics have been doing an extremely well job on being able to maintain what we currently have and being able to make improvements to them. So at this time, we don't feel that's an item that we need to have in the upcoming budget. The $50,000 would be for additional maintenance vehicles. Food service equipment, currently we're not allocating any funding for this upcoming budget for that. We did receive funding over the last 2 years, and that was from a 3-year plan. We were able to do that in 2 years. So at this point, we feel a lot of that is under maintenance and warranty as well. So costs for repairs should be minimal.
Mr. Henge, I'll address the 2021 budget. That's okay.
Yes, sir.
Members of the board, there are a number of projects that administration has identified and had also discussed with the operations committee before the COVID pandemic hit, and we reduced the number of meetings. The one project that is of utmost importance that we move forward with is the life skills renovation project, which is probably a whole brand new construction project at the freshman campus. If y'all will recall, we agreed to reallocate the little money that was left in the committed funds for that project to finish some of the other construction. We would do everything we could to begin and complete that project. To that end, we've identified a cost of $1,061,000. Now, we are very confident that we are going to have significant carryover money to be able to provide from this year's budget, commit $661,000 for that project. That'll leave approximately $400,000. Our recommendation is that we add from the local budget from this coming year $400,000, so that money combined with money that we'll commit at the end of the budget cycle, that'll provide everything that we need to finish, begin and finish the life skills renovation there at the freshman campus. There are other projects that if money was to become available, we would have the discussion. For example, at Del Rio Middle School, since we've divided the 7th and 8th grade campus, we had talked about relocating an art room to the upstairs level so that 8th graders don't have to come down to the 7th grade level, to create a secondary library at the 7th grade level so that then the 7th graders don't have to come upstairs. There needs to be some increased street lighting between Del Rio Middle School and Calderon, and this would be on the property of the school. So we've had a significant discussion with the city, and that would fall on us. A canopy for the special education playground there, and the main entrance as well. And that's the main entrance at Del Rio Middle School, so that when the kids are waiting for their parents, they have enough shelter rather than just the canopy there around the lower main entrance. We need to purchase some additional science department furniture. And then at the Blended Academy, drainage continues to be an issue there. But again, these are projects that we'd like to get to, but right now we're just asking to fund the life skills renovation, which is something that we all had discussions about last year and are ready to hopefully get that completed. So that's why we're asking for only $400,000, because we're asking also to commit money at the end of this budget year. Of course, that wouldn't happen until the end of August when we have our final meeting to commit funds for different projects. With that in mind, these are the items that administration has prioritized. There is definitely some room if we wanted to reallocate money, and that's where the discussion comes in, Mr. Mesa. So I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Mesa, for questions and suggestions.
Okay, thank you, sir. A couple of things. First of all, I believe our first budget workshop, we received a binder with the information in there. Is that correct?
We always issue a binder at the beginning, Mr. Mesa. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I don't have any materials on my desk regarding today's presentation.
That's correct. We can definitely, our intent, Mr. Mesa, was that after today's presentation, which pretty much concludes all the expenses, we were going to issue this workbook. But if there's other electronically, but if there are some paper copies that y'all would like, we can certainly facilitate those.
I certainly would like to have a paper copy, sir. And then before I turn it over for questions, because I know that Mr. Orfeld has questions. I have questions, and then, you know, we'll turn it over to individual board members. I'll ask my questions first, and then hopefully it'll stir some discussion later for the other items. Mr. Henge, in regard to HVAC uh, equipment and maintenance, as we replace some of the older units, should we not receive a smaller amount for maintenance uh, in those line items? Because we are replacing a lot of the older units, correct?
We yes, we did replace a lot of the older units, and the agreements that we've received, or the quoted amounts that we've received from both Amistad and Train, are based on the current age of those machines. So as those machines get older, the cost does go up.
Mr. Mesa, let me add something to the effect. At the screen I'm sharing with you right here, okay, the largest one is a train maintenance agreement. Now, unfortunately, last year when the year started, we did not have a maintenance agreement with Train. We entered one late in the year after they fixed a problem at Del Rio Middle School. So that's why you only see the 290,000 from last year, because it was only partial. This year we're taking on the full maintenance agreement with Train, and that's why it's a much larger amount. So last year wasn't for all the 12 months, and it was more limited in scope. We also didn't have a maintenance agreement for all the smaller units, but that's the biggest difference in price with Train. Now, because we do have a lot of newer equipment, we're not looking to replace any, as Mr. Henge had said, but it is more encompassing and it is for more months.
Okay, well, that's a big factor there that determines the total amount.
Yes, sir.
In regard to technology, I know that connectivity is not included in that amount, Dr. Rios, is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mesa. And we've had a meeting with Spectrum, and Mr. Henge has some figures. We're still in negotiation with them, but at least we have a starting point, and we feel very confident that that we will have something formally to present to the board. Now, our first step, our goal is to have Ms. Ida Gomez provide funding from grant money. But if that's not possible, then we are prepared to make some shifts in the budget and prioritize some of the connectivity through Spectrum.
One more question, sir, relating to that topic. Has Commissioner Morath discussed, in your discussions with him and other superintendents, has he discussed that?
From grant money.
But
if that's not possible, then we are prepared to make some shifts in the budget and prioritize some of the connectivity through Spectrum. Yes, Mr. Mesa, during Tuesday's meeting with the commissioner, he did present the option to fund hotspots
Commissioner Morath
through
discussed
different
in your discussions with him and other superintendents.
What we are doing with
he
Mr.
discussed
Henge and
that
his staff is grant money.
They
But
are
if
doing
that's not
the
possible, then we are prepared to make some shifts in the budget and prioritize some of the connectivity through Spectrum. Mr. Mesa, during Tuesday's meetings with the commissioner, he did present the option to fund hotspots. Compared to the hardwire cable modem will provide for the instruction at home. So although the commissioner and TA have taken big steps in ensuring that they provide hotspots, we're not certain that they will be able to appropriately support the learning management systems that we are going to be providing for our students and our teachers. So we'll know more about it after next week when they test it. Mr. Henge, do you expect the equipment today, tomorrow, next week? And by when do you think you can have the tests completed?
I'm anticipating that we should have the equipment by Monday. I met with Spectrum again late today on that request. We pulled cable in for testing it today. So we're just waiting on them to give us the signal now. And then we can load up our LMS options and then start testing it to see if the speeds are going to be sufficient. So I should have an answer by mid next week, Wednesday.
Mr. Mesa, board members, the cable modem that we will get from Spectrum will be a lot more expensive than what the commissioner is recommending through the hotspots. But it's not so expensive that we won't be able to provide for it in our budget. We just want to make sure that once we begin instruction and once it's 100% online, that we don't have any issues and that we minimize as many problems with connectivity as possible. So a lot of times hardwiring provides for that.
Okay, so let's see if I understand this correctly. That magic number of $15 per household, that magic number came out of, I guess, determining hotspots?
Yes, sir. And we have hotspots right now. Mr. Henge has 100 hotspots that we've gotten from different vendors. But because we haven't had the live instruction, we haven't been able to test it. So we are gonna test it this coming week and compare it against the Spectrum Direct Connect.
Okay, I just want to reassure that we get the best deal in regard to connectivity, because sometimes cable can be expensive, and I just want to make sure that we get the best viable option for this time that we're in. I'm going to turn it over to other board members. I'll start with Ms. Overfeld.
Yes, sir. Thank you. If you could go to the athletics tab for me, Dr. Rios. On that $199,956 for resurfacing the track at Walter Leverman. I guess the question is, realistically, how much do we anticipate we are going to use the stadium and its facilities? UIL apparently is going to make an announcement Monday concerning some stuff. And, if we don't anticipate, because of what's going on, and trying to keep students from congregating and being close to each other, which sports unfortunately allows for, could we not take that 199 or nearly 200,000 and buy more Chromebooks? As an example, $199,000 is about 792 more Chromebooks, based off just the rough estimate of that 627,000 that we saw in technology earlier for the 2,500 laptops or Chromebooks. So that's just my question. I'm just, as much as I know a lot of people are wanting athletics and stuff to go on, the way it's trending across the state, it's not looking real good in that respect. Could that not be earmarked for more one-to-one? Because we know we're going to need more one-to-one.
Absolutely, Mr. Overfeld. And I would just add that in reality, the HVAC is very important, because we do need to keep the systems going. But beyond that, any one of these items can be delayed for a later time. So the board does have a whole lot of options. Now, I would recommend a couple of things. First, we have a lot of Chromebooks on order, and they haven't given us a day when they can deliver, because they're so back ordered. I mean, I would venture to say that the entire country is attempting to buy different types of laptops, and they're just, there's no way they can keep up with the demand. The commissioner is talking about most Chromebooks being delivered in November. At least that's what we heard on Tuesday. So, and that's just with the orders that have now been placed. So if we add more orders, they won't come in until later. And as you can see, Mr. Henge already has a lot of money allocated, approximately $600,000 for Chromebooks. In terms of the track, I don't know how much use we will get out of the track this year. I am hopeful that that there will very soon be some medicine, and by very soon I just mean late this year or early next year, to where by next summer we can begin to have a more normal type of schooling and schooling activities. So I would just, knowing how bad our track is, I would just look at other areas such as the painting project or even the service vehicle, and just really be optimistic and plan that at least by next summer, that track would get plenty of use. That's just my recommendation, Mr. Overfeld. This is absolutely a board decision.
Okay, yeah, I hope that life returns to normal sooner than later. That was just one area that I saw, but yes, we can go in painting, interior, exterior, stuff like that. And I know there's going to be a backlog of trying to get the devices, but if things continue to trend certain ways, I'd like us to also be able to have built up a big stockpile of one-to-one technology in case we have to go through this again. So that's just my comments. I just kind of see, and I know it's not going to be popular with some people, but I see education over athletics right now, unfortunately. But yeah, we could take from interior painting and other areas there. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Orfeld. I'll turn it over to Amy. Do you have any questions, Amy?
There we go. Yes, Mr. Mesa, I just want to go back to I'm sorry, with the special needs. I'm sorry, the building, the renovation of the building for the special needs at the freshman campus.
Yes, ma'am. There it is.
Thank you. That's something that I would really like to done. I would like to see that done. It's long overdue, and we have talked about it, but I would really like to see that get done, if possible. And then also, there's also the canopy for the special education. You said that was at the 8th grade campus as well?
Yes, ma'am. That's right here on row 12.
Right. Something there as well. If we could work that all in, that would be great. That's what I was concerned about. It's just the special need, the life skills renovation, and the canopy for the special education at the middle school. So that's all I have, Mr. Mesa. I just want to go back and say that stayed on my mind right there.
Those are good points, Amy.
Thank you.
Dr. Rios, speaking about that, there is some money in question that is somewhat hanging in the air in regard to other issues that we've discussed in the past. And some of those monies perhaps be utilized. I know that you will have a surplus in regard to ending the year, but as far as the canopy, for example, I think those are very important points that Ms. Haynes discussed.
Mr. Mesa, I know Amy is on the call, and Amy, and Amy Childress. Ms. Childress, if I'm wrong, please step in and correct my numbers. But Mr. Mesa, we believe that the carryover funds at the end of this year will be right around $1 million, maybe 1.1 million. Having said that, the board will have the option to direct us on how to reallocate the additional money. So if we commit 661,000, we'll have approximately $338,000 to additionally to commit. And at that point, the board can choose from these other items here on column F and direct us where they'd want to use some of that money. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities to come back and allocate some of that money. Absolutely.
Okay, I think those are good points, and I thank you, Amy, for bringing those up for discussion. Mr. Orfeld?
Just one more quick one. I know it's not listed in here, but we've talked about it. The state giving school districts PPE, that's already been ordered and is on its way, and we've already started stockpiling, right? For when we do return face to face, we will be able to provide PPE for our staff, teachers, students, etc.
Absolutely, Mr. Oldfield. We believe that with what we have already purchased, as well as what the state has provided, and Mr. Scott Carcasey has organized some of the maintenance crew that will be driving to San Angelo next Tuesday. We will be picking up all of our material at 1 p.m. next Tuesday, the 21st, and bring it back. And that combined with what we have, it'll be plenty, especially given the fact that the families that we've contacted, a significant number of them are going to be doing 100% remote instruction. So we're confident that we have plenty.
Excellent. Thank you.
I'll turn it over to Ms. Gonzalez for questions.
I don't have any questions, but I agree with everything that was said before. I concur.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else want to bring any other item? I just want to again ask that we have paper copies so we can put those in our binder.
I'll get those right to you, sir.
Okay. Mr. Mesa, if I may, before we transition to Ms. Childress, who's going to go over the overall workbook one more time, at least as it relates to what we discussed today. I wanted to just introduce what we are intending to do about our technology, especially as we begin to lend laptops to students. Our goal is to have a device in the students' hands before the start of the school year. Based on our recommendation, we will not start the school year until the week of August 24th. And I say the week of because the calendar that we recommend could possibly have the students coming in on a Wednesday. Between now and then, we are going to be issuing the laptops that we have, some of the iPads that we have especially for the kindergarten students and some of the pre-K students. But we don't know when the other devices are going to arrive. Therefore, some students will actually be issued desktops. We have a significant number of those. Some of them are in their final year of warranty, but they're still very good desktops. They wouldn't otherwise be used if they were just sitting in the classroom. So I wanted to mention that so that when we say issuing laptops, some people might say, well, we don't have enough, but we have plenty of desktops and they're small and they're compact. And sometimes for elementary kids, having something that's set might be a whole lot safer in terms of damaging equipment. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that when we talk about issuing a device, we're talking about issuing everything that we have to make sure that everybody has connectivity and that we can begin learning from home.
Rios, going back to the question that Mr. Overfeld asked, the PPE, personal protection equipment, um, I've seen different scenarios where even shower curtains, clear shower curtains are being used instead of plexiglass, which is almost non-existent because it's scarce. Everybody's buying plexiglass. But as far as face masks, shields, some of these scenarios that I've seen where students go back in other countries, not only do they have a mask on, they also have a face shield. Will we be able to purchase some of those or already have some?
We're getting a lot of face shields with the shipment that TA is providing. We will, Chief Maldonado and some of the other staff that are on that committee, they're researching the best face shields to have for our teachers, and we'll be ordering some more. At that time, we already have enough if some students opt for face shields, but we'll certainly consider more. Now, based on the guidance, Mr. Mesa, the face shield alone isn't enough. You still need the mask unless you buy the face shield that goes all the way back around the ears, and that might be cost prohibitive, but we're definitely going to study it.
Okay, just so we can make sure we safeguard our personnel.
But absolutely, but for the staff, we'll definitely order the face shields, absolutely. And Mr. Henge, Mr. Carcasi, they already started building plexiglass shields with the plexiglass that they have available, and they have more on order. So we're addressing it from all angles.
So one final thought, as we proceed for opening school at some point, we talk about getting the students taking the lunch to the classrooms and the distancing and doing all that. Can we reassure that personnel will not be released? And we can have the personnel when we do come back to the normal. Can we make sure that staff is not laid off?
100%, Mr. Mesa. We are not intending to lay any staff off. We are going to not fill vacancies immediately. We want to make sure that we know how many students actually show up, but we're not going to lay anybody off. We're not going to recommend any reductions in force at all. So everybody can just rest assured that none of the board members have suggested that, and administration isn't thinking about that either.
Glad that you're saying that, so because it's just so we can have reassurance, for our employees. This is a difficult time for everyone. As Monday comes around, for our meeting, I'm thinking about those parents that both work and they don't have means of sending their kids to daycare, and so there's a lot of things that come to mind. But as we go through the different areas, we'll bring those topics up. But we'll have more discussion on Monday.
Sure. Mr. Mesa, if it's okay with you and the board, I'd like to stop sharing this screen and then just share the workbook summary that Childress will review with us. Are there any other questions related to this workbook?
Any other questions from board members? We're okay? I think we're okay, sir.
Okay, if, Mr. Handy, if you could have Ms. Childress come in the room, we'll have her take us through the rest of the workshop.
Hello, Amy.
Good evening, how are you? Good
just
evening, President Mason. Yes.
just tell me what tab you want me to go to. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Just tell me
You're
what
good.
tab and I'll go there, okay?
If you'll start on the construction tab, please, the orange one. All right, so this is our interactive workbook that we introduced at the first budget workshop. And we just want to show you the information that Mr. Hangate provided to you, where it flows through onto the interactive workbook. And this is where you can actively go in and choose yes or no on some of the projects that we have recommended. So on the first one here, we have the construction, and we have the track resurface at the high school and the life skills unit building. And then if you'll go to the operations tab, this is where it's listed the 2 HVAC service contracts, the Amistad and the train, the maintenance vehicles, the painting at Garfield Lamar and Buena Vista, and the campus furniture that we recommended for Ruben Chavita. And then on the technology tab, here it is mentioned the one-to-one devices, the Chromebooks that were mentioned in his plan, as well as the virtual environment and the cost of that. So if you'll go to the certified tab at the very end, to the right, I'm sorry. There we go. This is our tab where it just recaps the revenue and the expenses. And if you'll scroll down, it'll show that all of those amounts and projects have filtered through and do flow through to the end. And we are currently showing we are over about $53,000 on our budget. But as Dr. Rios explained earlier, we have plenty of areas that we could adjust to bring that back into a balanced budget after further discussion. We did not send this workbook out after the first workshop, but we will be sending it out to each of you tomorrow so that you can have it to review and make notes on and send back with any questions that you have.
Mr. Mesa, are there any questions related to this workbook? And if I may, Mr. Mesa, there are other areas within the budget, within the department's budget, that we could very easily make further reductions that would not necessarily affect the day-to-day operations on the campus. That's why we felt comfortable leaving the $53,000 deficit there, because there's just wiggle room within the departments that won't necessarily affect the budget. So we didn't want to not recommend some of the areas that we had talked about since last year.
I just have one question. I think the interactive worksheet is great. I think since it was introduced back a couple of years, it's given the opportunity for every board member to have individual input on line items. But my question, we're okay for this year in regard to, the budget. But for the coming years, Dr. Rios, have you heard anything? Because, as I mentioned in some of the prior meetings, the 7% increase in appraisal values, and with the unemployment rate that we have at this point for the coming years, has there been any other discussion, Dr. Rios, in regard to appraisal values and adjusting those?
No, sir. I believe that right now everybody's attention is directed towards addressing the issue of start of school and fighting the pandemic. I believe that once we start school, whether it be remote instruction or a continued remote instruction or eventually face-to-face for those students that wish to do so, I think that the attention at the state level will then turn towards next year's budget. we have heard to expect reductions, but that hasn't resulted in an actual percentage. But still, we're planning on being ready for that. Like the salary increase that we're recommending next year, for example, is one step. Not filling positions that may not be essential right now is another step. So I think that we'll be as ready as we can, but they have not said anything, Mr. Mesa.
Okay, no, it's just a food for thought, because if this year we're sitting okay, but for the coming years, I know we'll be affected, impacted quite a bit. So just, I guess, what I'm asking is to monitor the tax collection. I guess I want to say we always had like 95% tax collections at the end of the year. I just wish we could get a quarterly report somehow. I know that there's legislation planned in regard to those high appraisal values somewhat being frozen. I know the impact of all of this will be second, third, fourth year. But I hope that somewhere in between we can get some kind of report regarding funding from, again, tax collections.
Yes, sir. Ms. Childress will, once we get the budget approved and we can move on, Ms. Childress will work with Moak and Casey. They're usually the experts, the ones that know the information before it's even released to everybody else. So we'll definitely do our research.
Anyone else have a question? I think the fact that this interactive worksheet gives us just a good sense of participation and have input into everything that we do. And I think it's wonderful to be able to have that privilege again to do this. So I want to thank everyone in the department for doing it. Dr. Rios, are we ready to move out of the workshop?
Yes, sir. If there are no questions, Ms. Childress, thank you all for all your work. And Mr. Hengate, thank you for your work. We're ready, Mr. Mesa, to move on.
Okay. I just want to tell everyone that since we're all in different areas, we're going to close down the budget workshop and then have somewhere like 15, 20 minutes before we start our executive session. And somehow we will start a different Zoom meeting for executive, and then we'll reconvene into open session for our final vote on items discussed in closed session. The time is 7 p.m. We're now adjourning the budget workshop and adjourning for 15, 20 minutes, and then we'll come back into executive. We're now in executive. Okay. The time is 7:52 p.m. We are going to reconvene to open session. No action was taken in executive session. We're down to item 18A, consideration to approve personnel report to include the following: new hires, district vacancies, retirements, resignations. Aide Garcia.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve the following new personnel: Claudia Carranco, dyslexia and reading interventionist at Buena Vista Elementary; Eric Medina, assistant band director at Del Rio High School.
Heard the recommendation. Is there a motion for approval? Mr. Orfeld, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in agreement, please vote. In favor, we have 4, myself, Josh Orfeld, Diana Gonzalez, and Amy Haynes, all 4 voting in favor. Motion passes. Item 18B, consideration, Dr. Reed, you want to go into the other areas that we more than likely are going to be tabling?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mesa. At this point, administration recommends that we table item B and item C, and that we proceed with item recommendations for item D through F.
Okay, item B is going to be, again, we're not going to take action on that. Consideration to approve a position of assistant principal for North Heights. Item C was consideration to approve the position for assistant principal for Lonnie Green. Those are tabled. We're going to proceed with item D. Consideration to approve the position of assistant principal for Del Rio High School by Dave Garcia.
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve Mr. Shane Johnston, Assistant Principal at Del Rio High School.
You've heard the recommendation from administration. Is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Ms. Gonzalez, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Okay, 4 affirmative, myself, Josh Overfeld, Diana Gonzalez, Amy Haynes vote in favor. Motion carries. Item 18E, consideration to approve the position of budget director for the finance department at De Garcia.
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve Mr. Gilbert Sanchez for the position of budget director.
You've heard the recommendation from administration. Is there a motion for approval? Motion by Diana Gonzalez, the second made by Joshua Overfelt. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 4 affirmative votes, myself, Josh Overfelt, Diana Gonzalez, Amy Haynes, all in the affirmative. Motion carries, and the position is approved. We move to item 18F, consideration to approve the position of controller for finance department at De Garcia.
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve Mrs. Laura Connor for the position of controller.
With the recommendation from administration, is there a motion for approval? Amy Haynes, seconded by Diana Gonzalez. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously with 4 affirmative votes. Myself, Josh Overfeld, Diana Gonzalez, and Amy Haynes. Motion is approved. There being no other items on the agenda, is there a motion for dismissal? Mr. Overfeld, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? The meeting is adjourned. 4 affirmative votes. Myself, Overfeld, Mr. Overfeld, Diana Gonzalez, Amy Haynes, all voting in favor. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you and good evening, everyone.